Computer. Okay. All right. So, welcome to, it's the 14th of December. This is, I think, director's meeting number 16. So like I was telling Tom before we started recording, this past weekend, went to New York City for a 3-day event. Basically Warrior Residence sponsors. It's considered a entrepreneur launch, right? So you go down to New York City. They bring 12 different companies down there. It's a pitch competition. Hey, Gary, it's a pitch competition. And the whole kind of process behind it is to help you better prepare for if you sought funding or just really business guidance, right? So that's kind of the thought process behind it is, hey, let's help our veterpreneurs understand how to market themselves, how to build their company, and then really putting you down in front of people that have been there, done that, got the t-shirt. So literally I'm sitting down with senior vice presidents of the company, executives that great advice, right? So what I was able to boil down is really we have two things that we're trying to do, right? And what we're going to do is I'm going to simplify the process and really group us, all of our coaches, into one bucket, and then the software into another bucket, right? So what I've been trying to do is figure out, okay, how do we merge these? And I think between talking to the execs, and then Gary had a great idea, because Gary, I have no idea how you manage all the stuff you do, Gary, because Gary's in with Commit Foundation, he's in with Landit, he's in with Warrior Leader, he's got his own company, right? So what he's done though is really what we're trying to build, right? So Gary's got a net of networks that he is able to basically advertise himself, right? So if you think of Landit, right? I've been doing a lot of research on them. So it's a platform to where people go and they build their coaching team, right? So I would go in there, I would set a profile, and I would build a team of advisors and coaches to help me achieve whatever goal it is. And most of it's business oriented, most of it's career progression type stuff, right? I'm going to go talk to Gary if I need help transitioning my thing, right? So Gary, from a coaching standpoint, doesn't have to change his stuff, right? He puts his profile up there, he puts a little thing, and then as people are going, they can select Gary and book through Gary, right? Which is awesome. So I'm like, okay, so step number one is we need something like that, something like a Landit platform, right? Which is what I'm going to work with a couple people to get something better designed, right? Because what we figured out in a short time was people don't want to go to school, right? So here I had the idea of, hey, we're going to build this academy. They'll be able to come, they'll get classes. No one wants to go to class, right? What they want is they want you to tell them what to do, right? And I think everybody, minus us, right? We're educated. I love going to class. I love taking stuff online. I love learning stuff. But at the end of the day, 95% of the population wants you to tell them what to do, right? So they want to come to you and they want to say, hey, I need help finding a job. And Gary's going to be like, oh, awesome. Okay. Hey, have you thought about networking? Have you thought about resume writing? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Right. And then let them peel the onion and providing steps along the way. Right. So without repeating one of those, right, without becoming another Landit or another BetterUp, what we're going to do is I'm going to work with some people. We're going to build an app called Coached Up, right? So Coached Up is going to be the platform that we can then plug and play for every type of thing, right? So we'll have executive coached up, we'll have EMT coached up, fitness coached up, finance coached up, right? So we can replicate all those with that process of, hey, I'm going onto this platform to build my team of coaches, right? And then for you guys, you don't have to change yourselves. You still are the coach, right? So Tom will be able to have his profile in the system and show, hey, look, I'm an executive coach. Here's all of the tags that I can do, right? And we'll do a little short video for everyone like we've done, right? Where Tom can say, hey, look, in our first introduction meeting, here's what to expect, right? And then you can have little samples, you can do links. So that piece is still very valuable, right? So talking to them, they love kind of what we've started doing. They said, that's great, right? The ability to showcase yourself, the ability to research, right? Because that's what people need to know, they can trust you. So I've got about 4 different companies, platforms that I'm working with to try to figure out, okay, what are the best things of all of them, right? And And what I figured out right now is you have to have the ability to, log in, secure scheduling, secure payment, and then secure availability, right? So that way coaches have the ability to manage their own time, right? So Gary, I could go in and see Gary's profile. Gary's available for this time, and I can schedule right through the app. I can get on FaceTime with Gary through the app. Gary can communicate with me through the app, right? So that piece we need, right? And then the other piece we can then add to that is the ability to do things like Amanda wants to do with real-time classes, right? So now we could have a schedule in there for, hey, upcoming classes. Here's a avoiding burnout. Here's a CPR. Here's a Tom's doing his morning lift routine, right? So that ability helps kind of differentiate us from the others, right? So that's where, as we start to grow this thing, that's one of the things. But in the meantime, how can we really capture clients for us, right? Because that's the hardest thing, right? It's really, and Gary and Tom, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, right? I'm new to this game. I'm 6 months in, but I think from a coaching standpoint, especially independent coaches, gathering clients, right? And for more than one session, for more than a 3-month period, right? So having them, retaining them, and renewing it. So I got with this crew. The guy's name is Matt Crumlin and his wife, super smart people. She's like, hey, we need to package ourselves as a corporate wellness program, right? Because then what we can do is we can package, right? I go to a company, let's say Google, and I'm like, hey, Google, we have this offering. We have all of these types of coaches and all these things. And what we're willing to do is set up a platform for you to use as an employee benefit, right? And what they do on this side is they charge a flat fee per head, right? So $3 to $5 a head, per month per the company, right? So 8,000 people is $1 million things, right? And then these coaches, right? This pool of coaches are available to then help validate them, right? And what she's noticed on her HR side is it's usually a utilization ratio of 3 to 5% of the actual population uses it, right? So from us, it wouldn't be, too much. So that's what I want to talk to you guys and see is, hey, is this something? Because I think with the people we have right now, right, without growing anything, I think I could go to a hospital, right? And I want to use UNC. I've been talking to my sister to prep UNC Rex for this, but we go in and say, hey, look, like we'll do a year contract, right? And we can get it written up to where I have these available coaches for your people, right? And then depending on what they need, that depends on it. And then you basically say, hey, look, they have, half-hour sessions, hour sessions, whatever we want to determine it across the realm, right? And then that way, then we can figure out, okay, hey, what is utilization rate? And then we can just split costs out across everyone that's being used. So the thing that's good with that is really two things. One, it simplifies client acquisition, right? Because now you have possible thousands of clients, right? But you also now have an in with a company, right? So that's the piece that I think I hadn't really considered was, hey, getting in on the corporate side, all I thought about was executive coaching, right? I'm thinking, hey, they want people to do sales. They want people, well, they also want wellness, right? That's the biggest buzzword right now. So when I told them that I had mental performance coaches and I told them we had resiliency people, they're all over it. They're like, hey, that's what our corporate packages need, right? So right now, consulting agencies are paying big money for mindfulness, resilient coaches. Gary's absolutely right. Burnout, right? So then the other question becomes, right, what is our sales point, right? So how do we get them to understand the value factor? And that's where I think we go with retention, right? That speaks to any type of company. You have high turnover, you have the great resignation. So if we can have an assessment that shows, before, after, and then, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and a year following up to show, hey, the people that are in the program, the ones that are actively using it, what is their retention rate versus the company retention rate? That goes to bottom dollar, right? Every company can speak into what it costs to retrain folks and recertify folks and replace folks. So I'm working with the HR people to really figure out, okay, hey, how do we package it? What size, and then price point. So that way now I can say, hey, look, guys, I need X amount of coaches available in these these buckets, and then we can still tailor, right? So I can say, hey, look, these guys want executive coaches. These guys are interested in having some physical fitness coaches. These guys are interested in dietitians, right? Whatever it is, now we can quickly amend, and between all of us, right, we can build the team to support those coaching needs. So a ability for everyone on the team to still do what they want to do, right? I think end of the day, right, as long as I can bring you a client, you know how to coach, right? I think everybody on the team, right, as long as I can find the people, they're hungry, they want to be coached, boom, we've got it. So that I'm excited about, because now we can really start honing in on, okay, what is it we do? Well, from a Warrior Leader standpoint, right, the Warrior Leader Network, we are coaches who lower or improve retention, right? Or we lower turnover rate, right? So now I've got a measurable outcome, very, very clear. Well, how do you do that? Well, we provide a holistic coaching solution, right? Individualized one-on-one coaching for your entire staff. And that's the other piece that they thought was amazing, right? Is because we would have the ability to support anybody on the crew, right? We're not an executives only, right? Give me 1 sec. Hold on 1 sec. All right. Anyways. All right. But yeah, so I think by clarifying kind of our entry point, right, and then tailoring it to that, right, because that differentiates us, but it also allows us to still do what we do.
If you get to a hospital, okay, Blue, not now. If you get to a hospital, he's hungry and he's old, and the dog's outside going nuts. Sorry. I've been watching my wife. She's a nurse. I've been watching her for, I don't know, 10 years.
Yep.
Struggle with this out in town. But when you get someplace like Texas, there's 3 or 4 big networks. So if you can just get to one and prove your worth, you now have this whole network.
Exactly.
Of hospitals, you know, and if you can get them to commit to their, whether it's leadership or management or whatever it is, for their supervisors, because their supervisors are not trained to lead.
Correct.
And they're not trained very well in management.
Exactly.
They were good nurses. They go to school, they get a bachelor's, a master's, or whatever it is, but they don't get trained in management.
Correct. Correct. And in the healthcare industry, right? That's the one thing that I was amazed at. They don't spend money on wellness programs, right? Healthcare is a grind, right? First responders, police force, healthcare industry, right? All of those people that you would think are really, hey, they don't, right? They're like, hey, we're going too fast. We don't have the budget. We're not doing it, right? So if we could articulate, hey, look, we can come in and we can help solve those gaps, right? We can help provide the leadership. We can help provide the wellness. We can help provide all these things while increasing productivity, increasing, I wrote some other stuff down, but right. So increasing
retention, decreasing turnover rate.
Retention, right.
Retention's huge.
Huge.
Out days. The other thing they're using in hospitals, they're using a lot of temporary help. So
well, exactly. They're bringing in contract travelers.
Yeah, so you have a rent a nurse all the time, and they don't even know what the heck's going on in the hospital.
Correct.
So they're just, they're nurses, but they don't have the call. I just spent time in Florida with my mom in the hospital, like someone different every single day, and they're all rent a nurses.
Yeah, and of course, what I hear about all the time, because my wife was a Navy nurse, is these nurse or these division heads, department heads, they don't know anything about how to run things.
The education and the leadership, it's horrible. I mean, they can't even make schedules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a couple of thoughts. Go ahead, Tom. You had something else you wanted to say?
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
So a couple thoughts. I think you're right with the HR as the way in. I think medical is a real need. I think the need is there. Their margins are really tight in the hospital. Because I tried to do this before COVID. Their margins are tight. They don't want to spend the money. So we have to be able to show, and I think we have to be able to find someone who's coach friendly, one, and two, you have to have an advocate inside. Because I
Right.
found if you don't have an advocate inside, you're pushing a rope. You just
Correct.
you can't get there. So I'll give you two stories. So yeah, I think you got to make your way in through HR, and you have to be able to have some metrics, specific metrics they're looking for, some pain points.
Correct.
So there's this gal who started this wellness program. She got hired by HR, went in and said, I want to do wellness. And the HR folks were like, she convinced to get herself to get hired to do this. And this is what she did. She looked at companies, the HR magazines or magazines that give out HR awards. So
Okay.
she figured, what are the awards? And then she built her wellness program specifically around the criteria of the awards. And she put in for all of them, and they won the awards.
No
So then
way.
she went to the CEO and said, look what I did. We
Yeah.
won these awards as the best workplace. So she ended up getting all these. So he was able to put all these medallions down on their website.
Yeah.
We're the best this, we're the best that, we're the best, because she
Oh, wow.
basically, she wrote her standards to the awards, and she did it through the HR side.
Right.
So that might be, she's not doing that anymore. She's doing other wellness stuff. She's on her own, writing her book, and she's all about herself. But now no one could say a bad word against her because the CEO loved her.
Right.
And anytime he goes someplace, they say, look at all these awards we got, because as the best workplace to be, as
Yeah.
the best wellness. I mean, and they're doing banana shakes and they're doing checkers and yoga, seat yoga at lunchtime. And, and they're driving the managers crazy, but the CEO loves her.
Yeah. I mean, you're getting awards, and that's I think where we go, right? So that's what I'm going to be putting some time and effort into metric, right? How do we measure it? How do we prove it? And then what is our plan, right? Now, I think our plan is simple. I think with Gary, Tom, and Amanda, right? We know how to coach, right? And we can tell them. And the other piece we've got to be able to tell them is how long, right? And I think the long piece really depends on the severity, right? How many touch points do we get? How bad is it? How long is it going to take, right? If I've got to get you from point A to point Z, okay, do I get to have you every day? Are we going to do a consolidated, or is this something that you want throughout 6 months, a year?
Well,
Right.
I think we sometimes, so I'm just going to pile junk on the yard sale table here, and you
Yep.
just need to decide if you like it. So I was coaching as part of the executive ed program at a local university here. And the guy who was running and selling it, he was always selling coaching short. He was always trying to do it shorter. He was always trying to do it cheaper. And I okay, I don't think that's the way to do it. It costs
Good night,
money.
guys.
We sell it short. We need to put in something to make it show. Otherwise, you can't see it.
Correct.
So I think if you're going to save money, save it in the amount of people you're doing it with the prototype, as opposed to sell a small package. Don't sell a cheap package.
Right.
Right. But also, like, my idea, like, to create the buy-in is, like, you're gonna have to do pro bono. You're gonna have to put some free stuff on the table, but there's 12 departments, there's 12 EMS houses in Rockland County. So if I offer 6 weeks, 3 times a week to one house that's willing to be like the guinea pig for it,
Right.
now everybody talks to each other.
Yeah. Well, and that's the
Hey,
piece,
how do
right?
I get that? How do I get that?
Yeah.
And then you start selling the package. Like, people want it, like, you've created demand. So now you can start selling your package and not sell yourself short.
Right.
So, that's kind of where my head is at, to start doing some, not a ton, I'm not going to do a ton of free work, but I feel like you kind of have to do a little bit to get people to, like, buy in to
Yeah.
it. And maybe
then-
decide for people, like, we decide how long it's going to be. Like, maybe gauge what they're thinking, but like maybe we decide like 6 weeks, 12 weeks, a year, we decide.
I think using that, I'm always pro bono, always kind of, because I feel folks don't have skin in the game sometimes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
That's
it's
one of
gotta
the-
be-
Yeah,
So
you,
here-
we can
so
do a
here-
low, you could do a low cost, right? But yeah, you don't want to do free because free, they don't take ownership of it.
Mhm.
The question is whether you're going, whether you're having an individual pay or you're having an organization pay.
Correct.
Okay. So if you're going to a hospital or you're going to a company and they're going to pay for it, well, you can reduce the price,
Right.
right? But then there has to be some kind of reason, incentive for the individual to do what they're doing. It's an upcheck on their evals, as a supervisor. It's part of their quarterly training. It's something. There has to be an incentive for the individual, because Gary's exactly right. People who don't have skin in the game don't take it seriously. And
Right.
especially with coaching, and when you're doing the one-on-one or the individual thing, people want something for nothing, but then they won't be committed because they haven't
Yes.
paid. It's the same. You can look at gyms. Gyms do the same kind of thing. Why is there a big upfront fee, right? Because you can't charge them per visit, because after
They'll
January,
never make money.
yeah, after January 30th, their attendance falls off like 100.
80%. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love it. I
80%.
love the gym in February.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Empty, but so there, it depends on how you're doing the billing thing. And I'll tell you the danger. There's also a danger, coaches, when you're doing a non or a pro bono kind of stuff, because you're not as committed either.
Right.
Okay. Because it becomes, I got this thing tomorrow with this guy, and
Right.
you're not giving me any money. And so are you putting in the same level of effort as if you're meeting with an executive who's going to pay you $10,000 for 3 months?
Right.
But I do think, Amanda, you could low cost.
Mhm.
Hey, you're my beta tester, and your cost is the feedback you're gonna give me to
Right.
put it through, and then we have to do a hot wash on this thing. You have to give us the feedback, and we'll give you the first one. We'll do
Right.
a second round with your next set of folks. How does it get better? So, but your cost is, we have to get the feedback.
Correct.
And-
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then,
Feedback, reviews.
Right.
It
Yeah.
becomes-
Because it's a unique population, because they want change. Like most of the people who work EMS now, they want change. Like they don't want their backs to hurt. They don't want their knees to hurt. Like they don't want to hurt while they're doing their job anymore. But they're the population that needs to just be told what to do.
Right.
Yeah.
They can't figure it out. They don't want to figure it out. They
Well, and
just-
that's the thing.
and- but
Nobody wants that.
they also don't have a ton of money to pay somebody. So, with the mobile care people, they're a corporation. So they get the gym reimbursement. They, they get a certain amount of money per year as an employee to spend on whatever they want health wise. But, for the volunteers, it's a little bit harder because they want the change, but they're hesitant to spend money.
Well, this goes back to where you want to do this, and how you want to do this. Okay. Because it depends on what that organization is, and how they're funded, how they make their money, right, and who their people are, right.
Right.
Yeah.
So there are big companies that that will incentivize people to go through different types of training or coaching or whatever it is, and if they're structured and they're looking at this as the return, there's plenty of studies out there that say, coaching can 6x your returns, then you got to, you got to be able to put those numbers on the table,
Right.
to show somebody. But it depends on how it's, what the structure is for the payment, etc. And you got to get, you got to get smart, and you got to be, I think Gary said it before, when you prototype, when you do the beta test, you very, not a large you got to have a very defined group
Right.
you're doing this with. Maybe it's not the whole hospital. Maybe
Right.
you go and get some things and say, hey, look, maybe it's just the emergency
A handful of people.
department, or maybe it's just the
Yeah.
the med surge department. Maybe it's just the surgical recovery department or whatever it is. Do this, but you got to kind of look at what the database is for what you're
Right.
trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Because if they give you all the admin pukes, that's I hate to say that way. Did I admin pukes? At any rate, I'm sorry. But as well as I do, if you go to the HR department of the hospital, you're not going to get the people that you have with the same challenges that you have, and all those challenges are different for those different people working in those different departments.
Correct.
Maybe your sister can shine some light on that, John.
Well, and that's what I think, right? Because with her, at least I have it in, right? She's the director of a 400 nurse cell, right? She's women's and children's, has 400 employees. And I could say, hey, look, right, from a HR perspective, like cost price for, 5 packs, right? Some small test bed, run it as a pilot, run it at cost, right? So minimal cost with the ability, okay, hey, iterative feedback, clean it up, and then expand, right? And then ideally, so UNC Rex is thousands of nurses, right? Her cell is just the women's and children division, right? But they have multiple satellite locations and thousands of nurses, right? So as we develop them, we could expand and grow. But I think you're right? I think we have to get some type of foot in the door, some type of program with something out there,
So think about what Gary said about the aligning with a ward.
Yes, that's
hospitals
huge.
get evaluated by JCO. They get evaluated by the joint, whatever it is, but it's
Joint
JCO,
Commission.
Joint Commission, right? And they come in and they evaluate, and they run, and hospitals are run on all of these different metrics. They got a ton of metrics,
Okay.
right? And so the question to your sister is,
Where are they struggling?
what are the metrics that are, that are
Get her promoted, get her a raise.
Yeah. What are the metrics that make your hospital look good, that make your section look good,
Okay.
that make your people perform better? What are those metrics? That kind of goes back to winning the
Thank
award.
you. Have a good night.
That Gary was talking about. Taking those metrics, then you go, okay, what do we have that matches to those metrics that can do that? And we have a variety of things that we can do. I mean,
Correct.
we can talk specifically to certain things. We can coach people, on certain things. I think I think there's something there. There's something there.
One advocate, if you get one person that says, I can get this help, give me 6 people, and we can show that their team can improve. And that's a contagion that we're looking for.
Right. We make it a case study, right? Basically now we've packaged it and say, hey, look, we came in, they had this problem in this time frame for this cost, we got this, right? So that's what they want. We say we saw the problem, we did these actions, here's our results, here's the metrics, right? Here's quantifiable data. This is, in a dollar cost savings or in a retention or something, right? So I think you're right. So now, yes, our goal should be case study. And we can run EMS, we can run healthcare, we can run nurses, but something where we can showcase, hey, look, here it is, here's what we've got. I think healthcare and
Hello,
most
Max.
corporations you could do with retention, right? I think resignation, everyone's complaining about trying to maintain employees. So I think we could do the ability to retain, right? I've been researching the 12 things to retain. They're all simple things that we could easily coach around, right? It's job satisfaction, time management, stress reduction, career progression, alignment of values and purposes, right? It's all stuff that we talk to all day, right? It's literally, so I think that's what we do, right? I gather some case data. I love the idea of awards, right? I can figure out, hey, what are criteria for awards? Hey, let's get you guys set up. You haven't ever won this award. Here's the criteria. here we go. We come in, you know, I love it. Okay. All right. I'm going to try to set up a meeting. I'm trying to get, so she's trying to get me in touch with my HR. So she doesn't have the decision authority for the spending of the training, but she knows who does. So I'm going to try to get in front of their HR next week to really say, hey, look, this is what we got. So are we thinking pilot? Like what numbers are we thinking we could handle right now?
Well, there's the question. The question is, okay, or the issue is that if you get a group of people,
Yeah.
okay, then the leaders have to be included in this.
Okay.
Okay, because if you don't include the leaders, right?
Right.
I mean, Harvard Business Review said it, most leadership training isn't worth anything because you go in, you train a bunch of people, and then the leaders aren't trained and they're not bought into the same thing,
Okay.
right? And so these people just become more frustrated, or they all resign and go somewhere else where there are better leaders, right?
Okay.
You just defeated your own purpose, right? So you need to.
So would we want, do we want to pick like a level and say, hey, like, let's get all your first line leaders, or let's get all your middle leaders, or do we want to get a kind of a diversified group where we have a middle, a first line and a worker bee? Like, what do we think if we had carte blanche, what would we build in our pilot? What do you think?
Well, I think we need to hear what the issues are.
Okay.
What are the issues? And we're going to see there's clearly going to be a level thing to it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's clearly going to be. But let's see where folks are pushing their rope, and let's see where we can. So let's hear from them.
Okay.
But I do think multidimensional as opposed to just horizontally is, because when you do this, particularly, I mean, I'm always leaning towards group stuff with this because it
Right,
builds a
that's-
culture.
Yeah.
Because it's cohort, it's a culture.
Exactly.
And then I try to teach peer coaching as well. So now they're helping each other.
Okay.
If you tie each one of our disciplines here. I mean, you do stuff, Amanda, here's a skill set, because it's repetitive stuff. They have to get better. They have to continually do it. It's not a one and done. You got it.
Right.
You got to practice. You got to work on it. How are we doing? Are we getting better? How good are we getting?
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. And okay. So we're moving in the right
I
direction.
got one more thought.
Okay.
So, and I don't know if you asked the question or not. It's kind of, but when you think budget, how much do they spend per person per year? What's it cost to send someone to a conference? Okay, you send someone to a
Yeah.
conference.
10 to
Yeah.
15,000 a person, right? To go
Well-
off to these, 1 week conference and convention.
Yeah, and in my head, I kind of have like, hey,
Okay.
$2,000 for a 2-day conference.
Yeah.
That's kind of a ballpark figure I have. So if they're spending that 2-day conference, they come back, look, how was I mean, then they just get right back into it. Now they were gone for 2 days. Hold on. Okay. Can you tell them on the main road?
Yeah.
I thought that was Amanda.
This is what. Dang. So if we could, in particular, if we can keep the level up where it doesn't drop off. So if you think about, hey, you're not losing a person for 2 days. We're
Right.
taking a couple hours,
Right.
90 minutes, a couple hours over a period of time. And look what you can get as opposed to losing them for 2 days. Because now you're paying, what did it cost you? $400, $800, $1,000 in just those costs. Now that you're getting people to do it during the day. So just
Okay.
think about all the cost and see what you can pull.
Okay.
See what they'll reveal for you.
Okay. Yeah. I'll start digging. I figure that's the easiest, because like I said, I can pick her brain. And then if that falls apart and doesn't work, I've still got to end. My wife's got 3 different hospitals she works with here, and she's a traveler, right? So she's got her traveler nurses have horrible issues with leadership and resiliency and teamwork and all that, right? So that's the other piece that we could look into. If
Man, that might be, so just think about a coaching procedure on how to handle. So I'm just thinking out loud here.
yeah,
You air crew, you're not crewed up all the time. You come together,
yes,
you breathe, you put down a process, off you go. You
correct.
don't have a skill set. So this is a case where they're bringing in all these new folks who don't understand policy procedure. What if you're able to train a series of, this might be a lateral one, you could see of chief nurses on how to indoctrinate these traveling nurses that come in so you can rapidly and effectively integrate them into a team. It's basically crew, it's CRM, it's crew resource management. That's what we do, that's what we do in the aviation world. We fly thousands, millions of hours a year without mishaps with crews that have never flown together.
Right.
We're really good
Good
at
night,
that.
guys.
It's because we teach them SMEAC.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also think a lot of like the higher level supervisors, or at least the midline supervisors, like they just don't know what a supervisor, like they don't know what the qualities actually are to
Right.
be a supervisor. Like they just don't know. They think they know, and then they try, they wing it because they got promoted, and then they're like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I can't tell anybody I don't know what I'm doing.
Amanda, this is true for every occupation, typically in the
True.
civilian world, especially.
Yeah.
But in the military, we tend to, we promote people and we say it's because what they can do. It's really what they did do.
Correct.
But we typically have enough people around them to then, lift them up and get them, understanding, and they've been able to witness that. But in every place else in the world, people get promoted because they were good at one thing, and then they become a manager, leader, right? And they've never done it, and no one teaches them, and they have no education towards it.
True.
And there's not even a cultural, there's not even a culture of leadership that then takes them and says, this is what you should be, or who what you should aspire to, or here's some processes and, and procedures and things, to think about. I joke about SMEAC, but the fact of the matter is, the 5-paragraph order, is you teach everybody a 5-paragraph order. I used to tell my lieutenants, communicate with your people all day long in SMEAC. If you do that, they get used to hearing it, and you get used to always giving the essential elements of what needs to get done.
True.
Right. And here it is. And if you gave that to somebody, who was in a leadership position, and we could call it something different, whatever you wanted to, but when you do that, they then have a framework for what they're supposed to be doing. And it's the same thing with, if you took basis, here's the planning process. Here's what you do when you think about, planning for something. This is just a basic framework, right? You begin the planning, you arrange the reconnaissance, the resources, you make the plan, you complete the plan, you issue the order, and then you supervise, Okay, there's the framework of doing this. And that, even that very basic stuff,
Right.
And then you throw in, you start talking about all that other stuff, but yeah, all of these things, this is why everybody everywhere, I've talked to people in the dang, HVAC industry, and, they're like, we get promoted and we we were just really good at, fixing HVACs, and now I've got a crew of 6, and, and I gotta lead them. Okay, well, you got to lead them. You got to figure out how to do that, but nobody ever taught me. Okay, well, here's how we go about that. You can find it in anything.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Right.
leadership is it is a lost art out there outside of the military.
That's why I call it an apprenticed vocation.
Yep.
You learn leadership. If you go to school, you have schools, etc., but you learn leadership by following and being mentored by leaders above you, people that have done the job. And everybody doesn't get to see that, especially when you're working in cubicles,
Right.
or, they just don't. And everybody doesn't have a thirst for it either, because it's not essential. You don't have to move up. You can be a good nurse your whole life,
Yeah.
and never
be a charge nurse.
be the
Yeah.
charge nurse,
That's true.
Some people don't want that either.
Yeah. A lot
Some
of
people
people
would
don't
rather
like
just be a nurse
leadership.
their whole
Yeah,
life.
they don't want to have the responsibility. They want to just do their job and,
Yeah,
and
I
call
just
it a
want to
day.
come in and do my job and leave. Yeah.
Fine, and there's other people who want to want the authority but they don't understand the responsibility, right? Or the knowledge of what the position they're asked or they're aspiring to, right? And then they get there and they're completely a fish out of water, and you end up with a tyrant, running, a tin pot tyrant running something, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
One of my captains used to say, everybody can be a boss, but
right?
not everybody
Yeah.
can be like a supervisor.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So next steps, right? So what I'm gonna do is over the next week, hopefully, right? Because I know holiday season, that's the other problem, right? We're right up against the holiday season when no one wants to talk. But I'm gonna try within this next week to lay the groundwork for our first kind of pilot, right? We'll call it whatever we want to call it. We'll come up with a cool, catchy name, but retention, or I really think there's 3 ways we attack it, right? Retention, if we get a crew that needs supervisor training, right? Or leadership training, right? Something with that, but really small pilot at cost, something that we can test it, whether it's a linear, whether it's a multi-dimensional handful of people, really figure out, okay, hey, what are their needs? And then I can come back to you guys and say, okay, hey, look, like this is what we've got. Here's kind of what we're looking at on cost. Here's what we're looking at on time frame. What do you guys think we can build? Right. And then that way, now we can package something, bring it back and present it.
Yeah, beautiful. I mean, this is exciting doing this stuff.
Yes.
You find yourself in an organization, you get a champion, then you get it shut down, then you get the prototype, then that vice president leaves, and then you got to start over again. You're like, oh dear God, so you kind of fight your way into these organizations, and you're like, okay, I'm in.
Right.
And then, well, so-and-so got promoted. Well, we're going to take a different tack, and we're going to take this in. We're taking this internal. Well, for God's sakes, I just spent 18 months getting this.
Right. Like, you're right. And that's why I think, and I think instead of building all of this other stuff, right? So instead of I think I'm going to take Academy down, because it's not, right now, it's not what we need. Right. So I think we focus on a client acquisition, right? So that's going to be my focus is, okay, hey, look, let's get us a client that can get us really the foot in the door and the pilot program going. Right. And then on the back end of that, I'll be working with a team to get a platform developed, because what capabilities, right? If you're going to coach someone from virtual coaching for group, one-on-one, or even like assisted supervisory, being the person in the corner, what sort of capabilities would you need from a platform?
Easily accessible.
Okay.
Worldwide, easily accessible, intuitive, right? Intuitive, and that the supervisors can see the back end progress really, really simply.
Okay. Beautiful. Okay. Right. And that's what I think, right? And I think as we start building out our things, right, I think our value add is going to be providing insights to leadership, right? If I'm going to go to your organization and I'm going to be a consultant, right, all I'm doing is gathering data, right? I'm making observations and I'm recording, hey, best practices.
Right.
Same thing from a coaching standpoint, right? You should be able to be there, kind of the eyes and ears, listening, and be like, hey, there's some, like, you told me you wanted this fix. Hey, look, we got all this other stuff too coming up, right? So I think that could kind of be a help launchpad.
Think about that and make sure you don't forget that what you're doing is you're providing 2 services. One,
Right.
you're going to train some people up. You're going to grow some people. At the same time, you're going to be able to provide feedback,
Yes.
okay, to the organization
Right.
about where their people are and things that they need to do.
Right. So maybe having like an out brief, like Gary, do you do that when you do group stuff? Do you go in from, like, consultants do it, right? You do an in brief and an out brief.
Yeah.
So something like that. So we could have an out brief to let them know, hey, here's trends, here's things we've discussed, here's things way ahead, right? Because then that we could then use as a framework. Hey, look, like, yeah, we got your folks from here to here, but hey, this is another thing that we could then help, right? That kind of becomes that snowball effect of, hey, look, like, we're peeling back your onion and you've got more issues than you thought, right?
Yep. Well, and then you want to be able to see progress along the way. There's a friend of mine he has he's working on, the company is LMS 365, Learning Management 365. So it's integrated with, so it's Outlook, LMS 365 integrated. We could have a conversation with him so you can kind of hear what they have, but that's the kind of platform that they have. I don't know cost, I don't know enterprise level, but it's another guy here in Annapolis, an Academy grad that I've done stuff with, understands leadership development as well, because that's what he's trying to do. So,
Awesome.
so we can at least have a conversation. I'll make a connection there. We
Okay,
could do a three-way here.
perfect. Awesome. All right. Well, so I've got my homework. Go ahead, Gary.
Let me give you the last thing. We don't want a client. We want a partner.
Partner. Okay.
We are not after a client. We are after a partner to help us build this thing. And they're gonna be our beta test site forever. That's what we're after.
Okay.
So those are the things I tried to do. Like I have one client I've had for over 3 years.
Nice.
She's awesome. And just like Amanda, just like you said, some probo, hey, I got this assessment. Can I try this assessment on? Okay, a 360, 35-year-old CEO of a company. Yeah, I'll do it. There's a lot of risk that she has to put herself out, did it. Okay, I learned a lot. She learned a lot, that kind of thing. So she's been awesome because she has been my partner in the growth of my business.
Mhm.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Okay. Awesome. All right. I will, hopefully I can get on the calendar. If not, it'll be after the holidays, but hopefully within the next week, I can start at least gaming some insights and getting some groundwork forward. So.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And ka-chunk.
Sounds good.
That's it. The grinding of the wheels, man. I'm like,
Yeah.
woo, slowly but surely. I'm figuring this whole thing out. I'm like, okay, I'm looking at from here. I'm looking at from here. So the good news is we don't have to start from scratch. Literally, we can take what we're doing. We're just
Good night, guys.
finessing it, right? Repackaging it, making it prettier. That's what I'm telling myself.
Row
Nice.
well and live.
Yep.
Right?
It's like, I got one last question.
Yep.
So Amanda, where are you in the building and are you the concierge over there?
Yes,
Yes.
I'm at the front desk.
Yep.
So what is this? Is it like the Hotel Thayer that you're at? Where are you?
That's Arvin.
I'm at Arvin.
That's our gym.
Yeah.
500,000
we
square
put
foot.
so we put a candy bowl out on Halloween and we just reused it for Christmas.
Nice,
Beautiful.
okay.
So all the
Good work.
cadets are, coming up and saying thank you and good night and
All right, good work, all right.
I love
All
it.
right.
Awesome. Well, all right. So happy holidays if I don't talk to you guys between now and then. And what I'll try to do is at least our core group here, once I get some kind of feedback, I'll spin us up and say, hey, look, let's start building what we'll call a pilot, right? Let's start seeing what pilot looks like. Let's start playing with what we think we can do. And then that becomes our in for that. And then we can rinse, repeat, adapt, improvise. But I think you're right, Gary. We need that foot in the door, right? Someone to say, hey, yep, we're willing to try. Because all the other stuff, it's like pulling teeth. I feel like, yeah, I need coaching, but I don't want coaching. Oh, okay.
Yeah. When you get an advocate, things start opening. Otherwise, I mean, there's a trailer up a hill, pushing a rope. You take whatever metaphor you want. It's
Yeah.
just god awful.
It's insanity. I'm like, you guys suck. But awesome. Okay. Well, any other questions? Any other issues?
No, love the energy, John. Thanks for all the work you're doing. We really appreciate it.
Hey, we one way or another, we're gonna do something. I'm telling you. I'm like, one way or another. You keep.
Push the flywheel. Push
That's
the
it.
flywheel.
That's it. So awesome. All right. Well, have a safe and happy holidays, and I will be in touch with you guys hopefully next week.
Merry
All
Christmas.
right, good
Yeah,
stuff.
Merry Christmas, everyone. See ya.
See you.